Okay. Season finale of Sister Wives. Season 15, episode 10, Polygamy Hell. Man, this worked me up.
No. Watching this is like being in hell.
So, I actually had dreams last night about this episode because we watched it, 2-hour episode, stayed up till 9, which is just ridiculously late in our world. And then I kind of dreamed about it all night until 4 a.m. when my son woke me up. So, oh boy.
Cody hates everyone. Calls polygamy a failed experiment.
Yeah, so this is...
And talks really nasty to all his wives.
Except Robin. I don't think he said anything bad to Robin. So this season has been a trip because I have to say this about the season, which is finally they're saying out loud what we've seen for 15 seasons. But what's weird is he's saying it out loud and people aren't reacting, not people like, but people in the show, his wives are not reacting the way I would expect. In terms of like, he's saying some, he's always said stuff.
Delusional.
He's always said stuff in the interviews over the past few seasons, especially last season, where I was like, I can't, how are his wives going to feel when they see that, hear that? And now he said it to their faces, and they're kind of underreacting, in my opinion. I have no idea. Oh, we noticed they are filing a fin?
Yeah, that's totally what that says.
Okay. So he's still going, okay, so this is the deal. And I know a lot of people on Twitter feel the same, which is, I kind of don't get where Janelle's at, because at first she was like, she seemed to have a really good grasp on how the, like if her boys are going out and Cody's coming over, he can pick it up and then take it back to Robin. And then Robin's kids who are high risk would be at risk. And so she said, Cody can't come over. And back then, Cody was really mad about it. But somewhere along the way, that totally fell out, and Robin and Cody keep basically talking like they're Captain CDC, except he's going from house to house with no, he's like, oh, I washed my clothes, and I'm like, it's not your clothes that are the issue, it's your lungs, it's you. So if you're going from house to house.
Of course, he's not really going house to house.
He's going to 3 houses.
Not really.
Well, he's going to 3 houses, but not on an equal time is what it sounds like, because he's talking about being at a house for a week, and then dreading going to the next house, and so it's really become clear.
So he can't even enjoy his time, the whole time he spends with what's her name,
Robin, because he's dreading going to Christine's.
Going to see anyone else,
and he's managed to now throw Hunter under the bus. Now, this is the thing. I mean, this whole attitude of like it's not a risk to me, so I'm not going to do it. Like that's infuriating to me with Hunter and Garrett and. All of Janelle's boys, but I feel like they're still wrong, but I feel like a parent outing their kids for that on a national TV, to me feels like maybe that's something you discuss in private. I don't see Cody really talking to them and having any concerns. He keeps saying, my doctor says this, my doctor says that. I thought, is your doctor saying it's super safe for you to be going traveling house to house? Like, and that's what a lot of people already are saying on Twitter.
When you live in pretend land.
If he's going from Robin to Christine's house with no quarantine, then Christine and Robin. But what he said later on, which is his thought process, is Hunter can't go because then the risk is double. So he's acknowledging that the risk of him going house to house is one he's willing to take. So he's basically, my beef with him is that he breaks the rules when it's convenient for him, but he doesn't want anyone else to, because which is exactly the whole relationship has always been, which is when it's convenient for him, he has one set of rules, and when it's not, then he has another set of rules. Anyway, 2-hour season finale.
For nothing.
Mary goes on about his perfect analogy about masks and sex and no contact, and I'm like, why is she so team Cody? And this is something else that someone pointed out, which I agree with, which is they're doing this for religious reasons, and they don't ever mention that. And
they all have Stockholm.
Well, it's something, I don't know the LDS view on marriage. I especially do not know the fundamentalist view on marriage in the afterlife. But I believe, and someone in the comments can get all salty with me about how I'm misrepresenting it. I know that they're 2 separate churches. I
really don't care.
Well, it's not our religion. I appreciate that other people feel very strongly the same way that I feel strongly when people come at me with Christian stuff and I say, well, that's not what I believe. Okay, so I get it. Anyway, but from what I understand, they're all going to be connected in the afterlife. And he just keeps saying this.
Only if he says the magic word.
Is that true?
I don't know.
Okay, well don't throw in. Anyway, he's spoken badly about all of Janelle's sons except Logan, who is MIA. Graduation, they're going to have a big parade, and it's going to make it special, and Robin's going to make it special for her daughter, which is understandable, but I think, what about the other kid's birthday? He didn't even come, could have sat in the car, they could have sat 6 feet apart. He just seems totally checked out on the kids, and the moms kind of seem okay with it.
It's the Cody show.
So they have another meeting at the property, Cody and his wives, and he literally says, I just don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. I don't care. And now people are kind of like, oh, Christine's crying. I would cry if John told that to me about our marriage, right? That would hurt you if I was like genuinely like, I'm done. I made a commitment to this guy, for better or for worse, through thick and thin. This is the guy I made a commitment to. Through accidental haircuts going a little bit wrong. I'm with him, and it would break my heart if he was on, especially on national TV.
Well, I told you not to give the kid the clipper.
I would be devastated, and like then Christine's pretty devastated, but everyone else is like, well, golly gee, and they kind of don't acknowledge it when he says, I don't know if it was this.
Oh, not
instance,
kind of. Not kind of.
When he's like, I see polygamy as an obstacle to my goals. I'd be like, excuse me?
It's like, I mean, maybe not exactly, but it feels like the next sentence was like, oh, let's write some stuff and put this crap in our wallets.
Yeah, that is what happened. He's like, I see this as an obstacle to my goals. I would be all over that. I'd be like, what goals? Did you call me an obstacle? Did you call our shared children an obstacle? You better get your... But, I mean, I would be up and down. I'd be hurt. I'd be angry. I'd have a lot of words to say. I have a lot of words to say even when he doesn't say stuff like that. But if he did, and they were like...
That's why you write books, honey.
Yeah, I mean, so he says that, and then they do kind of cut to, well, I'm going to type all this stuff up, and we're going to put it in our wallet. And then this is the other thing, and those of you who watch the show for a long time know that since Robin joined the family, she has a lot of opinions about the family. She speaks, whoever's talking, she's got a summary for him, she's got an opinion for him, and now this episode, she barely talks. She has totally checked out. Cody can say whatever he wants about the other wives, and she has almost no opinion. And it's like really marked the change. And I think she's, she's out as well, and he's out. So they go about the perfect analogy. This whole episode, what we've just said right now, just keep repeating. And that was the whole episode, because it kept just happening over and over again. Christine reads out their mission statement. If you don't remember, the mission statement that they created in Las Vegas was a whole season. They were creating this for a whole season. They all signed it. I think that's also when they put their hands in the cement. It was a whole big thing. Now she reads it and he's like, I don't care. I don't care. No, I'm done. And no one seems, this is what gets me, is that
it's never acknowledged. Anything he says is like never acknowledged.
They just like, kind of go in.
Hey, did he just say that? Okay, maybe we should get up and walk away. But
excuse me, what do you think you're saying, Janelle? Are you, all this kind of stuff? All he's complaining about is his multiple wives and their problems, and it's like, I don't know. Like, you marry 4 women, there's problems. John and I have problems. I know it's shocking. It's hard to imagine that we have problems, but we do, and we have to talk about it.
At least one of us has problems.
So we have to talk about it, but he seems really resentful that he married human beings who occasionally need attention.
But honey, they're not always caving to his will.
I know. Well, that's the whole thing. And people are like, oh, well, Christine didn't want a single house. When they moved to Arizona, he had a plan, which was they were going to buy these 4 properties. They all agreed. Then he did an old switcheroo, and then he's mad that his bait and switch didn't work. And I don't really blame Christine for that. I don't know why, how you can see Cody and then be like, oh yeah, the real problem's Christine, the way he talks. Anyway, Christine, so they have this thing in Utah. It's now legal. She wants to return. Her kids are there. She's a bunch of family there. She talks to Cody, and he doesn't really say it's a bad idea.
He totally mocks her.
What he does is they
mocks her.
A lot of people are like, well, Cody wasn't super positive. He wasn't super positive, but he wasn't super negative. You think he was super negative because in it, they intercut him making fun of her in a private interview. Oh, they're going to tear her apart. I can't wait for her to go. I wanted to go to Utah. But to her face, he's like, oh, so you feel differently. And then it like intercuts with him being like, what a moron. I can't wait until these ladies rip him apart. And for once, I won't be the bad guy. But she says she felt like it was a good conversation. Of course, what we also don't know is what a normal conversation... Well, we do know what a normal conversation with him is because he said, when I go to Christine's house, I'm on my phone the whole time because I don't want to be there. He said that earlier in the season.
For a couple hours a week.
Yeah, I mean, he's really... Yeah, she's like, I see him for a couple hours. I'm like, couple hours? You know what I mean? Anyway, then we cut over to Isabel. Now, if you haven't watched recently or you don't remember, and I don't remember all the details...
I don't care.
What?
Nothing.
No, well, the kids we care about a little bit more for strangers. Isabel has scoliosis. I can't remember how many years ago it was, but she had this thing, and I distinctly remember they didn't want her to get a surgery. They wanted her to go do these exercises, these kind of fringe exercises, which, if you've ever been diagnosed with something, there's always these sort of outlying people who are like, oh, I cured it with, like you have clinical depression and people are like, oh, I cured it with bananas or something. It's that kind of thing. They go, they do it. The doctor's like, I'm really, if you want to do it, you can go ahead. There's going to be no harm, but I'm really suspicious. She goes and she does it. There's a tiny bit of improvement, but she's like crying. She has to do it for hours a day. It's not helping. Okay.
And back then, they didn't want her to get the surgery. And now, he doesn't want her to get the surgery.
Well, and the other thing...
Screw that she's in pain 100% of the time. It's so inconvenient for him.
And I've had chronic pain. I have really bad feet, and I had to get a surgery. And it really does affect your life.
Really put me out.
Yeah. Well, the first one, I didn't even know you. But,
the second one, I took care of you.
You did. But my feet are not my back. I can't imagine how much worse my back is. But, I stopped doing things. I stopped going places because my feet would, I was worried that I would get so far away from the car. I wouldn't go to the mall because what if I was halfway across the mall, my feet started really throbbing. I had terrible bunions in my 20s. It was, anyway.
Fun stuff.
Anyway, and then I would lay in bed at night and they would throb and throb and throb. And so it was really affecting my life. I can't imagine how much worse it is with your back because you can't standing, sitting, laying. It all hurts.
I mean, I just can't imagine
breathing.
The selfishness that a parent must have to be like, oh no, that puts me out, so can't you just put it off?
Right, to her face. And he even says in the interview that because Christine is such a mess, he didn't really believe that Isabel's doing that bad. But it's been years that she's had this problem. And I admit, if she was like, I want breast implants in the middle of a pandemic, I'd be like, no. But a medical surgery is a little different. Now, there's a couple things I have to point out. One, they didn't have insurance. So I'm like, you have 18 kids? And now maybe that's just Christine doesn't have insurance for her kids, but they took 6 months to get the kids insurance, which is really kind of freaked me out just for that reason. Secondly, they're going to go to New Jersey. I don't know if that's where, I did a quick Google and I'm like, I can't get much deeper than this. I don't know whether that's the best place for juvenile scoliosis surgeries, whether this is, there's someone closer. I don't know any of that. But his response, which is that Christine's been in pain, so he's going to blow off Isabel, and she's crying, and he's like, well, she can go alone. I thought, you don't even like Christine. Why? He's just trying to punish Christine because she's saying this is the thing. And it's just sickening, and Isabel is like, I don't want to go have this major surgery alone, and starts crying, and Christine's like, you're not going to have to, and it was just so difficult to watch. And then he gets up and leaves, and they cut to...
This is what they signed up for. If they don't like it, they can leave, but they won't leave, so they deserve it. I mean, not the kids, but the wives.
No, not the kids. Well, I mean, I'm of the, and that's fine, a lot of people agree with you. My thing is that this still doesn't justify... There can be two people wrong in a situation, and I'm going to put most of the blame on Cody. Because he can just walk away. And she loses the rest
clearly wants them to just walk away.
Yeah, he does. I mean, what he wants Mary and Christine to leave him so that he can be well, I would never have left them, but they chose to leave. That's what he wants, so he's driving them out. And anyway, he gets up and leaves, doesn't even say anything, doesn't seem to even be like, Isabel, come out here. I love you. I want the best for you. I'm so sorry. Nothing. Just kind of leaves. Cuts over to Janelle, where Janelle is going to be flying for a surgery a few months before this whole thing with Christine. And Janelle on Twitter was like, well, the baby has to get at this point. Okay, I'm not just saying the baby shouldn't have a necessary surgery.
But it puts Cody out. Can't you just wait?
No, well, the thing is he doesn't say that to Janelle. It's just assumed, of course she'll go. Of course she'll go and she'll help them. And then he gives Janelle a kiss when she leaves, and it's like, okay, well, I guess we just wait until Janelle gets a little uppity, and then he's done with her too. I think the reason that he's fine with Janelle staying is that she's never really disagreed with him in a big sense. Although somehow she gets different rules because she has dogs and all that. Some people mentioned that he mentioned a QAnon quote, where we go one, we go all. I didn't know that was a QAnon quote. It took me forever to figure out what they were talking about. But he's been saying that for several seasons, but it also wouldn't surprise me if he was QAnon. I'm just going to address that. So, so then they do...
There's enough, man. We don't need to make stuff up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying that I recognize that people heard that, and apparently it's a QAnon thing. I want nothing to do with QAnon, so I don't even know that. But he has been saying that since Vegas, and I think prior to... someone who knows more can tell me, but I don't necessarily...
We don't care.
Anyway. So... And they're still fighting about the differences. This is the one thing where I'm like, it does frustrate me that I have to say that Cody's right, but except he's only picking and choosing the roles that work for him. So he doesn't want anyone else to go out, but he's moving from house to house, except Mary's, and it sounds like barely Christine's, and then when Janelle wasn't there. So anyway, they go out to the property again. I can't remember if this is the second or third time. I think this is the third time they've gone out, because him and Hunter get into it, and he throws Hunter under the bus on Twitter or in the interviews. And I don't necessarily disagree. I mean, I don't agree with what Hunter's saying, but it does seem that Cody has bent the rules to make it work for him, so that he can be with Robin the whole time, and then can be mad at everybody else.
If they're either one big family or they ain't, and we all know they ain't.
Anyway, so they go.
It never ends, and nothing happens.
So anyway, so they had the first meeting, which was like the communication thing, or the third meeting. I don't know. It was dark, so I didn't even take very good notes. So now they're saying she goes and she's like, okay, I want to talk about going back to Utah, and they're like, but we're going to develop this land. Except two episodes, 2 months ago, whatever, Cody was like, I'm just still mad. I don't want to develop the land. Kind of sounds like no one's doing anything. Christine's really upset because she's like, and then I feel like this is what killed me, is when she told everyone and everyone's like, no, and Robin's like, I won't move my kids. Everybody else moved their kids just 2 years ago, and now all of a sudden she's got an opinion.
She got everybody where she wanted them, so.
Anyway, yeah, and so she's like crying, and he goes, did you really think that people would want to move to Utah? And it just killed me, because it was like, here she's this vulnerable moment, and he's mocking her in front of the family. And I'm kind of looking at the other wives being like if he was rude to a waiter that I don't even know, which he isn't, he's super polite, I would be really embarrassed. I would be even more embarrassed if he did it on camera. I'd be even more embarrassed if he did it to a member of our family. And they're just kind of like, and so she's crying, so she leaves. Cody makes no move. Once again, we notice that other than Robin saying, I'm not going to move my kids, she has almost no opinion about the fact that Christine's crying. And Mary goes and comforts her, which was like...
Stockholm's got to comfort the Stockholm.
Yeah, which is... Anyway, so they go... And I'm wondering, this is my really important question. Who is filming them? Because they're talking about how they could film. Someone's following them, so I'm like, one of the kids?
It clearly wasn't an iPhone anymore, so I think they got... some people back.
Could be, but they have one camera following them. She wants to quit. No, you can't quit. You can't separate. Robin's like, you can't do this to my kids. And I'm like, everybody else moved their kids. All of a sudden it's an issue that people are in high school. Janelle's like, well, none of my kids are in Utah. I'm like, what happened to this whole our children thing? All of a sudden, Janelle is... So I just, this family's imploding. And it seems like somehow... it's imploding, and it's not Cody's fault.
And it's not entertaining.
Well, it's not entertaining.
And unfortunately, it got renewed a new season, I hear. So
that's what I heard. I heard they're filming, but we'll have to see if they actually get it. But it's like, I want to hear more. I don't know. I don't even know what to say, because it's just every time he opened his mouth, it was something infuriating that I thought, this has got to be it. Someone's got to call him on it. And then they would just be like, la, la, la. Like, I'm not saying they were never mad, but they just... if John made one of those comments to me, it would be devastating. It would be absolutely devastating. And they just kind of, la, 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 like, you're an obstacle to my goals. I would just implode if he said that he thought that our entire marriage and our children were a waste of his time. He doesn't want to do it anymore. I mean, they'd be devastated. And they just kind of, like, it's sad, but they're not the level of, I don't know. I feel like if you didn't watch that show and have that same feeling, I don't know what to tell you.
So let's name this syndrome. There's Stockholm Syndrome for kidnap victims. What would this be for plural wives in Delusion Land?
I don't know.
Let's hear it in the comments below.
Yeah, tell us. And otherwise, we will see you next season, I guess. And if you have shows that you want us to try to recap, we might consider it. So anyway, bye.